So we are coming now to the last panel session of the day. It's been an amazing experience these 2 days. We had an event that really covered all major industry topics, and we were privileged to have on the panels 50 leading Greek ship owners principals. The idea of this forum was exactly to showcase the thought leadership of Greek shipping. We pay tribute to Greek shipping as we have it within the context of the Posidonia Web Forums Week. And we are concluding with a panel on the new generation. I don't need to elaborate more on this. Here you have the new generation that has taken over and is looking towards the future with confidence, with expertise, ensuring continuity, and bringing in new blood and new ideas. And I would like to thank Ioanna and Ismini, John and Alex, and Christos for being with us one more time. We were together in the New York event last week. So Christos, thank you for moderating this panel. And now we'll turn it over to you with a huge thanks.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. I have to say it's a great opportunity to be chairing a panel like this. There are tremendous changes happening in shipping today. We have changes on the financing side, which I live firsthand. On the capital markets, we have technological changes when it comes to fuel efficiency, when it comes to propulsion systems. We have a lot of changes on the environmental side with energy transition. And at the same time, we are having a generational shift in a number of shipping companies with the next generation gradually taking control of the businesses. So I'm very happy today to have 4 representatives of the next generation on this panel. Also working for a Norwegian organization, I'm very proud to have such a gender-balanced panel today, which was not put in place by design. So that tells you something about gender equality in shipping. So that's very, very good. I will start with a short introduction, although you know most of these people already. They've been running businesses for a number of years. I will start as I see people on my screen. We have Alex Hadjipateras. Alex is the EVP of Business Development for Dorian. He's a director of the UK P&I Club, and he's a director of the Helios Pool with MOL, among other positions. John, he's the CEO of Goldenport Holdings since 2012. He's the co-founder of Ocean Gold Tankers, and he's involved in setting up and managing Golden Yachts, which I guess is the more exciting part of your day-to-day business. We have Ioanna Procopiou. She's the founder of Prominence Maritime. She's been supervising all activities of Sea Tankers, which is the dry bulk business of the family. She's been actively involved in real estate developments, and she's also looking after HR for Dynacom Tankers and Sea Traders. She's a director of the North of England P&I Club and a member of the Union of Greek Ship Owners and the Cypriot Ship Owners Association. So very busy schedule for you, I guess, Ioanna. And last but not least, we have Ismini Panagiotidi. She has been involved in ship owning and ship management since 2004. She has founded Pavimar in 2014, and she has been the CEO of that business for the last 6 years. When I was asked to put this panel in place, I thought, where should we really take this? And I have to say, asking some more personal questions to you guys is certainly what I thought would be more interesting for a discussion like this. When I talk about personal, I would like to start with Ioanna. And I would like to ask you, Ioanna, how challenging is it to work alongside or to start your career and work alongside a very successful shipping entrepreneur like your father?
I have to start saying hello to everybody to begin with, and thanks for having us. Working side by side with someone like my father, I have to say that it's very inspiring because you work close to someone that you admire, I admire a lot, and who also happens to be very capable and accomplished in the field. But I think, of course, in any company, when you have affiliations with the owner, it is a privilege, but it can be a burden because there's a long way cover in order to prove yourself, both to your colleagues and to your fellow ship owners or the community in which you live. So I find that often the bar is set higher than anyone else. I think another thing is that comparison will be inevitable, but what is important, and I believe that someone should do this as soon as they can, is to accept that you are different from your parent and that you are going to do things in a different manner and way. So in that sense, you should learn to capitalize on your strengths and work on your weaknesses. In our case, I have to say that it's been good, and we've had we try very much not to step on each other's toes. So I have plenty of space and freedom to be creative and involved. And I think it's very important because we spend so much time working. So work is a means of creativity, and it should be this way. But at the same time, when I'm working next to someone who has a vast experience and such an in-depth knowledge like my father does, I always run to him for questions or in order to get some guidance when I'm faced with new things that I haven't come across in the past. And in concluding this question, I think that it's very important in any industry to have a transfer of knowledge from one generation to the other. I think it's very important. And I'm actually very glad, and I see it as well as a responsibility to be able to gain the knowledge and hopefully in the future be able to transfer it to my offsprings.
Do you feel that you are getting fair treatment from your father? Is he being stricter than he would have been with employees outside the family? Are you discriminated against?
No, actually, I think he's very fair. He's very fair, and he gives you chances to mess up, and then it's okay. So yeah, I don't have any complaints in that sense.
Alex, just to spice things up a little bit, what happens when you disagree in a setting like this? What happens when you disagree with your father? There's something you want to do, and you put it forward, and there's no agreement there.
Thank you, Christos, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Nicholas, for arranging the conference. Ioanna and Yanni and I have had the chance to do a few conferences this year together, and it's a delight to be with Ismini as well. Christos, to your question, I think that at least personally what I do Monday to Friday is I put a professional hat on, and I just separate the role of sort of family to professional as much as possible. Of course, shipping is not a Monday to Friday business, but I believe you have to compartmentalize and treat it professionally as you would with any other colleague. So I think it's not black and white. It's easier said than done. It's always going to be a gray area, but try not to be overly sensitive and just be professional about it. That's my philosophy.
Mm. Ismini, let me turn it over to you. What thinking about your role in the business, what have been the biggest challenges in getting accepted and establishing yourself in the business, both as a woman, but also as a daughter of a very well-known principal?
I want to greet everyone from my side as well, and thank you, Nicholas, for including me in this panel of friends and people that we are hoping to see around in shipping for years to come. Christos, getting back into your question, I mean, let's not forget, and we must acknowledge the fact that getting into a family business to begin with, it's definitely an advantage. You have a lot of doors that open just by saying your name, just from your history, your family's history, your family's track records. You have already established relationships. You don't have to look on finding partners, and you have an agenda that's already there. You can have emails and contact names that you can directly approach and start. On the other hand, and as you said, because these are the personal questions of the panel today, I think mostly the struggle that I have found is with myself. The struggle of trying to prove and living up to the expectations of others and myself as well, in terms of keeping up the family name, keeping up the good company name and a good track record of a family business, and trying to prove myself and to others that we can do it as good as the previous generation. So I think this is the most important struggle that I have found as a next generation in shipping. You also asked about the women in shipping, and it has been a trend lately, and it has been very positive to see a lot of more women coming into shipping. And the fact we had seen that in previous generations, sons used to inherit the businesses and come into shipping. But now in our generation, it's very promising. Of course, we have Ioanna and a lot of other ladies who have been around and are very competitive, very bright, and very capable. So I think things have changed now, and there is no such discrimination anymore. We are not, I remember quite distinctly, the first Capital conferences I have been was in 2004, 2005. And I remember there was never a line at the ladies' restrooms. Now, if you actually go to the ladies' restroom, there's definitely a line during the break. So this is what has, this is what says it all.
So the line in the ladies' restroom is the test. But no, you're absolutely right. I think we have seen many more women coming into shipping, many more women in senior positions, and that's really a very refreshing change. John, moving over to you. You've really been running the Goldenport Holdings business since 2012. You've done a lot of changes in the business. How were they received?
Thank you, Christos, and well done to Capital Link once more and Nicholas for putting together this amazing conference and panel, and always hearing these very interesting panels. I've heard a lot of very exciting stuff today. Now, turning over to our subject, I mean, obviously, there is always, we come into a new business and we have a lot of exciting ideas. We want to, as they say today, disrupt everything and bring new things to this business, which is, I think, is actually quite good. And personally, it was interesting because I didn't actually start in shipping straight away. I mean, you mentioned it before, my first job after I finished London, my studies, worked a little bit there, and then I came back here and started doing yacht chartering and yacht operations. I didn't actually join shipping from the start, from the get-go. But to be honest, I mean, I always, doing there, and this business was actually growing a lot when I started 20 years ago. But still, I thought shipping is the future for me. This shipping is where I want to be. So coming into our family shipping business, there was a lot of new ideas, but always I understood I had to marry the wisdom of the existing generation at the time, the knowledge that had been cultivated with new ideas. So one item, for example, that I worked on is trying to bring maybe some new people from outside shipping into the business and trying to get them excited, as much excited as I was about this, and try to bring their know-how, their outside, the new, let's say the technology they had in their know-how, and to bring into this business. Another idea we had to think differently is about our assets, our ships. So it wasn't just enough for a ship to be, big and to buy it well, to buy it for a good price, which is actually 20 years ago. That was, let's say, 75% of the success. A good ship, a decent ship at a good price, and you're halfway there. But it is also many other aspects you have to consider, and even more today, as was discussed in the previous panel about energy efficiency, about the impact on the environment, etc. These are all matters we have to consider. Another issue, of course, today with the new banking environment and of course other sources of capital available like PE and maybe capital markets, which were not involved but we were in the past, you have to have a more corporate structure today. You need proper balance sheets, auditing, a structure that you have transparency, and you can explain to your charterers, first of all, to your financiers, and to all the other companies that you work with, what exactly you're about, what you do, and how you get along doing it. So that is, transparency is key today, and it is quite important. Finally, I thought, in shipping, of course, specialization is important. For example, being the best in a Capesize segment is something in itself, but diversification is something that I always thought is extremely important. So I sought out to diversify our group into the wet segment as well, that I thought with my brother Vasilis, we worked a lot on this to develop a team to actually try to, with some success, of course, outsiders can judge, it's not up to me to say, to enter into that segment as well. So I thought diversification is something that we had to go after. But always with respect to what we have been taught, with respect to the generation that started this, in my case, my father, Captain Paris, and always that personal relationships and the relationship with your bankers, with your charters, are extremely important. This has not and will not change.
And how was your father very supportive in the way you were approaching the business, in the changes you were looking to put in place?
My father is a very interesting person because he's a very wandering mind. Even in all his careers, he wanted to try new things. He wanted to actually look at new things. So in terms that I showed quite a lot of interest into picking up a part of the business, actually I think he was happy about that, because then he could also pursue other things. So yes, he gave me quite a lot of leeway, and I thank him for that, because that's the only way to learn. When you have to make the decision, and that decision is final and will bear consequences, this is only when I think you actually weigh your options and weigh your decisions. That is when you can learn all your life, but when your decision is what will be the difference between losing and winning, I think that is key. And yes, he was doing that. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Alex, I want to come back to you and talk a little bit about corporate governance, and maybe a subject that could be interpreted as being a little bit sensitive. How corporate is corporate? We see family in C-level positions, CEOs, CFOs. Is that better, or is it professional management with family on the board? We see a number of companies in Western Europe and in the US where family members are sitting on the board, and there are professionals, running the business. Most Greek or Greek affiliated shipping companies have a different philosophy or a different mentality. What are your thoughts around this?
I believe, Christos, that shipping, as we know, is a fiercely competitive business, and public companies are under a microscope. So I think each case is unique, but I believe that it has to be what's in the best interest of the business. I mean, I put the hat on as a shareholder of a business, whichever it is. You want to create value. That's the role of management. And then on the board, a board of directors should add something different to the board and bring another skill set, be it in accounting, commercial. So in our case, at Dorian, we try to retain family values of being close to the seafarer, having a great grandfather who was a captain, because we know that the seafarers are the ones who are delivering the cargoes to the customer. And essentially, each ship is our floating business card. So if the terminal is not happy or we don't have good performance, we're not going to get business and perform well. But at the same time, I believe that, shipping's fiercely competitive, and you have to always think about how can you create value for your shareholders.
Ioanna, let me turn to you and ask you something which is a little bit broader. You guys are a new generation of entrepreneurs. And if I look at around, you look at technology companies, they reach billion-dollar valuations overnight. You have unicorns, you have incubators, you have tech disruption all around us. What makes shipping attractive to somebody like yourself? Why do you decide to spend your time in this industry and not in something that is considered to be much sexier and is considered to and is able to reach bigger size much sooner than you can get in shipping?
Okay, an entrepreneur, in my view, should not only be concerned about returns, but also what the industry he's in represents for the world. So if we go back a little bit, what does shipping does? Shipping is a service industry, and it's about connecting the most remote parts of the world by the means of trade. So basically giving them access to the world trade arena, let's say, so that far removed countries can sell their goods in the rest of the world. Also, it improves the well-being of faraway places, again, by delivering essential goods like fuel oil, medicine, raw material, and things that they don't have on their own. So as an industry, in my view, it offers also a service for the betterment of society. Now, what we've seen in the last few years, starting around the early 2000s, was a big tech boom, which started with the creation of the World Wide Web, and it was all about connecting people, and it was mainly operating in cyberspace. In the past few years, we have all seen with its application to real life, that the technology is slowly or faster, depending on the sector, but many industries are adopting technology like agriculture, healthcare, the automotive industry, and many, many more. In the past and up till now, we can say that shipping has been very slow to adapt these new technologies. But what we're seeing is a trend towards digitalization. And from our side, I find that this is a very exciting time for us as a company, because we have embarked in this exploration, trying to test different systems and incorporate several new technological features in the way we monitor ships with sensors on board, or into streamlining the way we operate and using data in a more useful way and for making managerial decisions. So I think that it is an exciting time for that sense. And with all the upcoming regulations that we're seeing coming our way, there's definitely going to be technological leaps for innovation in order for shipping to comply with all of this. So coming back to your question of excitement and technology, I think it's going to be a very challenging and interesting time and an exploration going forward. So now, in terms of the money-making aspect, I think that what we need to bear in mind is that for shipping, we've seen over and over again that there will be good years and there will be not so good years. So it is a matter of embracing this volatile nature and the cyclicality of shipping, and try to, whenever the times are good, prepare yourself in order to weather the storm when the bad times hit. So as a sector generally, I think shipping is about risks and about reaping the rewards. And with shipping being so volatile, I think it represents entrepreneurship quite well in that sense.
So you vote for old economy and volatility?
What do you mean by old economy?
Well, shipping is representing more the old type, economy. And, if you look at the, technological side, the e-commerce side, it's a more new type of era, new type of economy. You look at the, the dot-com businesses, you look at all the startups. That's what I mean.
Okay, yeah. I think that for us, having been brought up also as well in this sort of environment, and having grown up with dinner table discussions all our lives about shipping and how, the problems, and we've seen the struggles and the good times and the bad times and everything that it took to get here. I think I don't know if I'm speaking on behalf of everyone here, but definitely for me, it was something that there wouldn't be another thing to do. And I tried to do other things as well, starting off in the beginning. But I have to say I was very much drawn to this industry because it's a very exciting, and no 2 days are the same. So I think that I ended up, and by being born into it, and by being attracted to it. So I have to say that in that sense, I wouldn't be doing anything else.
I want to agree with Ioanna exactly on her last point. I think ultimately the answer to your question is that we have all been drawn into it. I mean, I know that all of us had a choice, and I personally had a choice, but I personally had the choice to choose something other than shipping, but it has been so much, you know, at dinner tables in our blood that it was honestly a one-way street without even us realizing it. So yeah, it just, you know, it comes in naturally, and I'm sure, you know, and we are the ladies speaking. Imagine the gentlemen who are, you know, even more groomed by fathers to get into this, to follow their footsteps.
One-way street for you guys as well, Alex and John?
I think picking up on Ioanna's point about tech and shipping, shipping is ripe for a disruption right now, and we're seeing it with all the money pouring in through VCs into different artificial intelligence companies and with sensors on the vessels. So this is an industry that's going to be turned upside down. Obviously, a lot of the other panels were talking about emissions, but you know, it's very exciting to be in an industry that's evolved, become more open and transparent, as Yanni said, but also is going to continue to change and be part of that change. So I believe that the tech, I mean, I think, Ioanna, in a way, it was a subtle point, but it shouldn't be ignored. It's like a freight train that's going to hit shipping and turn it upside down, for sure.
I am a firm believer of that. And I think that the sooner we start embracing these new changes and all these very useful little tools that obviously don't fit every company, but finding the right tool that helps you make more educated decisions, because a lot of the decisions in the past were gut feeling based. From the, you know, to buy the original spare part or to buy under license spare part. Now we get to see how these things work in action, how soon they break. You can monitor all of these things. You can have a lot of better feedback into getting the decisions that are based on facts. And I think it's very important.
Yeah, I echo that. And there's no doubt that successful shipping companies of today are miles apart, very different than how, you know, we worked our companies 10 and even more 20 years ago. I like to believe that some fundamentals still are in place, like an example I gave before about relations, but definitely technology is changing the landscape. And I think, you know, we all embrace that. With regards to coming to this business, I mean, you know, speaking for me, you know, I did also consider many other things. And as I said, I did something else in the beginning, you know, chartering in this, what I described before, has nothing to do with shipping. You know, it's like a hotel business, let's say. It has nothing to do with what we do here. So but I came into this for the love of the game. I think it's a very interesting business. When I came into it, we actually enjoyed very good years ahead. You know, it was, you have to think, you know, the golden decade after 2003 and 4, you know, it was really amazing years. You were just, it was just every year was better and better. Demand was going up. Containers were running at double-digit growth rates. You know, dry was running at high single digits every single year. I was a bit newer at tanker, so I wasn't super expert, but still, we had a very good experience there as well. So obviously, we came into a good time. And now we are a generation that we have seen the highest of the highs and probably the lowest of the lows, if you exclude, you know, 80, 83. But, you know, 2016, I mean, one could argue was an absolute disaster for this. And I think Greek shipping and many people, especially people here on this panel, have done quite well through this crisis and went through the good years well and grew their companies, improved their assets, and now are bigger and better companies.
Let me ask you, John, another question which puzzles me quite a bit. What we have an industry where you have assets, you have the ships, they're being built in Asia. They're being increasingly financed by Asian institutions, be it banks, be it leasing houses. They carry cargo that's Asian. They serve Asian end users. And then you have, you know, a shipping hub in Greece in the middle of this. Is that sustainable in the future? And maybe not just for Greek shipping, but for international shipping in general. And what needs to happen for this to remain relevant?
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting question, of course. I mean, I think about that all the time, and one cannot overstate the importance of China into what is shipping today, and actually part of what I was saying, part of the good markets. You know, a lot of dry bulk, for example, was almost purely China-driven. Now, I mean, there's a bit separate. You know, I mean, ships built in China. Obviously, there is competition from Japan regarding bulkers. There is Korea as well. It's very good ships, and you know, some of the best Chinese shipyards have featured top Greek ship owners as like some of the best clients. So it is an obvious cooperation that works and has worked for decades. So we shouldn't forget that Greeks are huge clients of the biggest Chinese shipyards. With regards to banks, for example, and leasing houses, I think again we've seen recently that 2 or 3 major leasing houses even opened branches in Greece, showing how I think Greece is part of their core business. So that is also a cooperation there that is to be had. It's not that, you know, they only work with Chinese ship owners. So finally, with Asian cargo, again, similar picture. They will go for who is the most efficient most of the times. Now, I will not underplay the importance of leasing houses, and you know that they actually order ships to support shipyards within China, and then they will maybe do a charter at a very cheap rate, you know, to one of the major Asian outfits at rates that we cannot compete with for a long time because the cost of capital or the need for return is much lower than us. But again, there is definitely a place for a competitive shipping company, and same can be said for other countries. You know, Japan is also used to be very, very closed and now maybe a little bit more open. Korea is also, there is subsidies onto the Korean shipyards, and even, for example, HMM, you know, Hyundai Merchant Marine was rescued by the Korean state. So it's not only that, you know, the China Inc. or the Korea Inc. or Japan Inc. You know, I think this feature in part exists in other countries as well. As far as Greek shipping, my answer is simply yes. We're super relevant today as we were relevant in the previous generation, and we will continue to be so. That is my immediate, I can say that. You know, companies are very efficient and they are always looking to do things better. They're looking at new technologies, they're looking at new ways and regulation, being more involved in fora that discuss this new regulation much more than we used to. So yes, Greek shipping is super relevant and will remain so.
Ismini, I'd like to come back to the previous discussion that we had about, you know, getting into shipping or getting into new technology. I mean, shipping, at least historically in Greece, has attracted top talent, has been seen as a very interesting business for new graduates to get into. I mean, you guys have been brought up in shipping families. You said that, you know, maybe there was, you've been brought up to get into that business. But with all these new interesting opportunities, how can shipping continue to attract top talent, not only in Greece, but also internationally?
I think what shipping is and what moves shipping is actually the seafarers. They are the heart of our business, and this is where we should all ultimately invest. To attract talent from the beginning, from grooming young seafarers and promoting them from within, and then ultimately maybe bringing them ashore to the officers, and because they know the mentality, they know the culture of the companies. So I think the investment that we should do is in the young seafarers, in the cadets, and their education, both in Greece and abroad, because a lot of us, we do have seafarers and companies who attract seafarers from Asia, etc. So I think the future, and in order to be able to sustain this level of good talent, is if we invest in it from the beginning and from a very young age, and we actually promote it and educate it properly. Definitely in Greece, because we see there's a scarcity of of young seafarers lately. But I think due to the crisis, this has changed a little bit, and maybe this is an opportunity that we should take advantage now and build kind of a new trend on this.
Alex, same question to you, but with a slightly different color. Not focusing so much on seafarers, but focusing more on senior management. Can shipping in a more international setting attract top talent away from hedge funds, from startups? What do you see?
I believe that, yes, because it's very much a relationship-driven industry. I mean, right now we're not traveling around the world. We're doing a digital conference, but all of these events that are usually happening, I think the egos in shipping compared to other industries, I started in tech, are much more reasonable. People are more approachable. Some of the largest, most successful executives are always willing to talk to a young cadet. So I think that from the banking side, the shipping side, the broking side, what we love about the industry is that personal relationship aspect, and in a way gives us a higher quality of professional life than if we were looking at a screen trading, I don't know, stock options.
Ioanna, let me ask you a different question. What do you see as the biggest disruption in the industry going forward? What concerns you, or what are you trying to prepare for in the future?
I think what concerns me is something that we cannot prepare for, which is basically what for me I see is the biggest threat to our industry is regulations made by people who have nothing to do with shipping. They don't have the background, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the exposure, and they make decisions that affect lots and lots of companies who, as was said earlier, are the end users of a product, which is the vessel, and the way it's going to be operated. Now we see regional decisions being taken, like the EU ETS, which is emissions trading scheme for ships operating either within or finishing into Europe, which is going to create all sorts of problems. It undermines IMO, it undermines a lot of global efforts, because as we all know, shipping is global and requires global regulations and not local regulations like the EU ETS. And I think the more these regulations are being taken, these decisions are being taken from people that do not have the knowledge or the experience, I think it jeopardizes the industry. And I think there's going to be less and less willingness of newcomers to enter shipping when they see a mess that is created from the upcoming regulations that are pointless. So I think for me, this is the biggest threat to our industry.
Ismini, where do you see disruption coming from for the shipping industry going forward?
I mean, the immediate disruption that we see is from the COVID-19 crisis that we're all, living, and worldwide everyone has to adapt. So this is, basically, the short answer in terms of the immediate future. Now, as Ioanna correctly pointed out, and I agree very, very much with her, is that this whole regulation and regulatory environment has been taking up a lot of our time. And, even captains on board the ships take up a lot of more time to deal with paperwork and filling in forms than rather than operating and steering the ship. So we have been going into a direction which has come away from what traditional shipping is. And as Ioanna rightly said, it's from people that are not in the industry. They're not actually are in the day-to-day business of it and know how to make educated decisions and actually make, educated new regulations. So it's the talk of the town that has been over the last 5-7 years, but it's not getting any better. It's not that we started with some regulations, now they have been implemented so we can move forward. There's a buildup of regulations on top of the previous one. So it has been a complete transformation of what our parents used to do, and what we and people at our offices are asked to do today.
No, we see increased regulation across all industries. We see it in shipping, we see it in banking as well. But, you know, and we all complain about them. But the question is, do we feel, or do you feel that shipping had been adequately regulated in the past? Has there been need for these regulations to come into place? I think that's really the, or are they being introduced? Are there too many? Are they being introduced in the wrong way? That's what I'm trying to really understand.
I think it's a combination of what you said. There has definitely been a need for regulation, but regulation that has not been tested and has not been properly implemented is not ultimately successful. And this is where we have ended up at some points, at some parts today.
Sorry if I may interrupt as well. There should be a methodology in all of this. You can't just have random regulations coming one after the other with unknown results and unproven outcomes. What we see right now is a mess in terms of regulations, and a complete disagreement in all levels of the people making those regulations. Even within the IMO, there's a huge struggle to convince one way or another. In terms of regulations, of course you need regulations because you need to be able to regulate an industry to a certain degree, not to over-regulate it, because now we've gone to the other side of the pendulum. Okay. But you need to do it in a coherent way and in a way that makes sense. At the moment, it does not make sense.
Going back to disruption and away from regulation, coming to you, John, where do you see disruption coming for the shipping industry?
Well, I think regarding the regulation, I think the ladies covered very well. But before we close, I mean, Christos, I wanted one very quick one. Also, I want your take. Also, how do you see things? You know, you're one of the most prominent bankers out there, and you know the companies. You work with a lot of European and Greek companies. How do you see change? How do you see the companies changing? I mean, I'm very interested to see your take as well. I mean, we can say what we say, but I'm very interested in what you have to say also.
Well, I can give you a couple of thoughts very quickly. I mean, shipping is changing, and it is changing dramatically. If you look at financing, for example, which is what I do, it used to be the case that bilateral loans were really the way to go for every shipping company. Then we moved into syndicated loans. Then companies became bigger. They started accessing the capital markets. You have bonds, you have equity, you have convertibles, and there is a real advantage when a company can really fund itself with various different instruments, both in terms of cost and also in terms of availability of capital. So there's been a lot of change on the capital structure. We touched upon regulation. There's been a lot of change when it comes to regulation, I think, and my question to Ismini before was a little bit of a loaded one. Yes, there was need for more regulation, in my view, in the shipping, also in banking. But I will agree with Ioanna that a lot of these regulations at times seem to be random and seem to be very, very far-reaching. Also, I see a huge change coming in as an avalanche on the environmental side, which we haven't touched upon much so far in this panel. We see companies putting forward very elaborate ESG plans. I think really this is the future when it comes to scrapping, when it comes to carbon footprints. It's the way we are conducting our business is changing in all aspects. And at the same time, we have a new generation. So that's another change as well that is coming in the...
Yeah.
I see Nicholas has come in. Maybe he disagrees with everything I said, or he's signaling that we are running out of time. Which one of the two?
It's the second one. We are a little bit past our time. I managed to do a good job up to the previous panel. So I'd like to thank you all for really concluding the forum with a very upbeat and insightful panel. Thank you to all of you. I don't know if you want to say anything before we part.
First of all, let me thank everybody for coming into this panel. I don't think there's been a panel with the next generation done before, so that was extremely exciting. Thank you for being very candid and very honest, particularly when it came to the personal questions at the beginning. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and thank you very much. Any comments from you guys?
Thank you, Christos. Thank you, Nicholas. Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
It was great. It was a great discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But Nicholas, I think there were some questions we should apologize to everyone that we couldn't really answer. They were popping up on the screen, so I guess we'll cover them on another occasion.
You need
We
to
managed to cover about 60% through the discussion, but we left 3 or 4 unanswered, unfortunately. So you have to invite us back, Nicola.
I would be delighted. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.